problems do I have? I mean, really, if you look at other people's problems, what problems do I have? They're so minuscule, and yet it's all relative, isn't it? God puts his finger on you, and he pushes, and you squeal, and your whole world starts to revolve around yourself, and it makes you realize who you are and what you are, and it's a miserable realization. And what are you going to do? That's all part of it. You have to accept that. Hi, everyone. Martin Zender. The sty on my left eye is so bad now. It's swelling at the bottom. It's almost shut. It's an ugly scene. So I'm wearing my sunglasses today. That explains that. So I was running the other day and I pulled a muscle in my right calf. I was running and just like, ouch, it just hit me right away. I had to limp home and it hasn't completely healed yet. And in the meantime, I had done something to my ankle in Birmingham when I was running down there. And so I barely got over that. And now, boing, my right calf went scafloozy. Then I got this infection on my eye. So that's bothering me. So then I go into my car because I had gone to Walmart naturally. I forgot to get my stuff out of the front seat of the car. So I went out to the car and I went to get in the car and I banged my head on the car. I mean hard. I banged my head hard and that did it for me, folks. That ticked me off so bad. I let rip. I just told God what I thought of it, and it wasn't a pretty thing. And I realized that how really selfish I am, because it doesn't take much to make you just like, oh, this is my life and I hurt and it's all about me. And it's a terrible thing to see when it happens. It reminded me of Jonah when he was sitting under that tree. He had just prophesied concerning Nineveh. He relaxes under the bush or tree, whatever it was, the gourd plant, and God caused the sun to burn it up and burn his little head. He got a sunburn on his pate, on his bald, stupid head, and that was all he thought about. So what's the lighting doing here? That was all he thought about after that. So he complained bitterly to God. And that's what it comes down to. That's how petty we are. And it's all about us in those moments. And we realize then that the astounding sacrifice of Christ, I mean, to go through what he went through, I'd have been like, oh, dang, oh, geez, what are you doing to me? Oh, come on. You'd think, you would hope you would rise to some nobility on the way there, and you would see the big picture. But you know how I felt when I cut my finger, just like, what? We're so much creatures. Then I, of course, realized you have to cut yourself a break, because then you realize, okay, that's the purpose of it all. To calm you down, to make you see who you really are. And I quote the verse, we have this treasure in earthen vessels, that the transcendence of the power may be of God and not of us. That's 2 Corinthians 4:7 or 1 Corinthians 4:7. Read both letters, you'll find it. And so at the same time, I'm working on this article, and I'm like, who am I to write an article for my newsletter this week? And who am I? I bang my head, and I start cussing out God. Then I realize that's the point. And I hope you understand that's the point. We don't attain some mountaintop of achievement. We speak out in our brokenness and in our weakness. And God knows exactly where to put his finger. And I thank him. I'll go this way. I thank him that I'm a sensitive person that way. I'm extremely sensitive. Sometimes I wish I weren't that sensitive, that it just takes a little bit of something to make me realize again what I am, who I am. Too self-absorbed. I need to focus my attention out on the ecclesia, just like I spoke yesterday. Be solicitous for one another's needs. And so there's nothing better for your own trials and traumas than to let yourself go out to one another's needs. I'm thinking I got to get rid of this circus freak eye before I go to the meetings this weekend. But then I thought, why are you thinking that, Zender? Because you just want to look good. You want everybody to go, look at that guy's eyes, man. Aren't they awesome? What if you have some big globe here sticking out, the size of a golf ball? So what? Didn't Paul say at one point that he was weak in presence and they felt bad for him, yet they accepted him, even though he probably looked like some sort of Ripley's or Believe It or Not exhibit? So I can go to Springfield, Missouri as a Ripley or Not museum exhibit, and what does it matter? It doesn't. It doesn't matter. I think of Sheryl Crow at this point, and I've been thinking of her a lot this week with my little ailments. You know, she's missing an arm, no hand on the other arm, missing both feet, and I'm like, oh, my calf hurts. Pathetic. So, somebody from the Ecclesia, somebody I have not met yet from the Springfield Ecclesia, I'm looking forward to seeing all you folks this weekend, wrote me on the heels of Thursday's show when I conjectured that the two witnesses at the end there would possibly be testifying concerning the body of Christ. After I said that, I thought, there's no reason why I said that. But this gentleman jumped on it and he said, you know, what would anger Christians the most? And we know that it's going to be Christians persecuting the two witnesses. Yes, don't doubt me here. It's going to be Christians persecuting the two witnesses. And this gentleman said, what would upset them more than for the two witnesses to testify concerning the body of Christ that God has already taken out a group of people to minister his grace among the celestials? Because you know, after our snatching away, nobody's going to know about it. It's going to be a extremely small event. And Christians are going to be waiting for it to happen 5 years after it happens. They're still going to be waiting for it, just like the Jews are still waiting for Jesus to come. He already came. You kind of missed that one. And so the Christians are going to be waiting for the snatching away, talking about it, and it's going to be 10 years in the history books. So they will be incredulous, just like the high priests of Jesus' day were incredulous when he said to them, you're the offspring of Satan, or when he said of them that you're just like your ancestors who killed the prophets. They are going to be incredulous. You could not tell them anything more fantastic, and I say fantastic in a bizarro fantastic, a weird fantastic. How could you possibly say that type of fantastic? Then the body of Christ is already snatched away. They are going to be infuriated, much as the priesthood was infuriated when they stoned Stephen. They stoned that guy. And because he convicted them, they killed the Christ. And so that sounds plausible to me that the two witnesses would do something like this. Even though you would think that a testimony or a witness concerning the body of Christ would have no place in a circumcision evangel. But again, they have 3.5 years to testify and to witness. And as I say, this is all pure conjecture. The evidence that God is the power of resurrection. This is the premier miracle. This is why the two witnesses raising from the dead is going to create such a trauma. It's going to trigger that earthquake that's going to kill 7,000 people. Life comes from God alone. This is the premier miracle, resurrection. So it is no doubt fantastic that Satan would imitate it, because Satan is a liar, the father of lies. He's an imitator. That's all he's got now. So he is going to imitate it, and he does just this, as we're going to see later, with the man of lawlessness. The man of lawlessness is going to appear to have been killed by a death blow and recovered. It's a pseudo-resurrection, and the world's going to go, and they're going to see that as, and interpret it as an evidence that he has God's seal of approval, because all life comes from God. However, you know, just like near-death experiences, this is a false miracle. And I have heard that of people coming back from Africa today, Pentecostal testimonies that people are raising the dead in Africa. It's a false miracle. And I don't doubt that Satan is anticipating the next move of God, the snatching away of the body of Christ, the resurrection of the former resurrection of the Israel saints. And so Satan is going to imitate that. And that's the greatest imitation you can do. So it's no surprise that in the last 3.5 years here, we're seeing a false resurrection of the man of lawlessness, the Antichrist, and we are seeing a true resurrection of the two witnesses. And I don't know how anyone will be able to see the resurrection of the two witnesses broadcast on live television and contest to anyone that is a false miracle. This is the last show on the two witnesses, and I thank God for it because I'm tired of talking about them. So the next topic is going to be the seventh trumpet. So now this ends the second woe is what this does, and the seventh trumpet begins the third and last woe. So let's review. If I can read here from A. Enoch's book. It's very dark with my sunglasses on, and I like the subdued lighting, so we may have some issues here. Thus ends the second woe. Okay, I have to peek. It covers, you see my eye? You want to see No, I'm not going to show it to you. You want to see it? No, I'm tempted to show it to you, but it's grotesque. I should just show it to you. What have I got to lose? Look at this. Look, yeah, that's pretty ugly. It's swollen all at the bottom. It's quite hideous. This ends the second woe. It comprises the scourge of the... Look at the second woe. Look at what it has included. This is a review. Comprises the scourge of the 200 million cavalry, the supernatural horsemen, the seven thunders, the seizure of the temple area, the false temple, and the testimony of the two witnesses. Nothing comparable with these calamities in scope or intensity has ever visited the earth. These are the last judgments in God's great controversy with mankind, and I'm glad of it. Remember A. Enoch's great quote, this is the last good time that human beings are going to have, and these are the last great judgments that will occur. His last two witnesses not only testify for God, but testify of man that he is a hater of God and thirsts for the blood of all who stand for him. And that is true of you too, because you stand for God and they thirst for your blood. Now, you can take blood two ways, literally or metaphorically. If you take it literally, it means shedding actual blood like they did with Jesus Christ. I say they, and they are still around because they want your blood. If they can't get your literal blood, the blood stands for the feelings, then they will shed your feelings. They will shed your feelings by shredding your character. And this has happened to many of you. And this is because they can't crucify you. But it's figurative blood. Blood, again, stands for the feelings because the soul is in the blood and your soul is harried. Your feelings are hurt when people come against you and you are maligned for the sake of the truth. This is what humanity has always done against the truth. And we're living in an era where it just keeps happening. And look, A. Enoch says this, from the blood of his first witness, righteous Abel, through that of the faithful witness himself, that is Jesus Christ, to this final testimony, man manifests himself a murderer in the first degree. A murderer, starting with Cain and Abel. Cain murdered that righteous brother of his, Abel. Bloodshed right from the beginning. Why? Jealousy. Again, I tell you, it goes back to jealousy. It is so evil when somebody thinks that somebody else is hoarding for themselves the favor of God, and it produces an indignation like, how dare God accept your gift and not mine? And don't you remember the Pharisees were jealous that the man who was blind was teaching them, you are born in sin and you're teaching us the scriptures. The man said to them, have you heard of anything in Moses where a man has healed the blind, given the blind sight? And they say, you pretend to tell us? So they were jealous, really, in that case, of his power. Remember, jealousy requires three parties. You have the offended party, you have the middleman, which in this case is the guy who was formerly blind, and you have his wisdom, his knowledge, and the fact that he was a hero. He was rather popular. He had his 15 minutes of fame because of the miracle Jesus wrought upon him. And so the priests were jealous of any wisdom that operated in their precinct, in their sight, in their precious little temple that didn't come from them. That sickens me. It sickens me. Open your hand. Let the glory of God go. Let it shine where it will. Where it will. And if someone has of a revelation that you don't have, and it thrills you, and you might slap your head like a V8 moment. Oh, why didn't I think of that? So what? You didn't think of it. Somebody else thought of it. It's glorious. Now publish it abroad and credit it as someone else's. I'm reading a book here by A.E. Nock, and I credit it as Mr. Nock's wisdom. You may take some wisdom from me and you may quote me. That's fine. And I don't even ask you to credit me. I don't care. It's nice to do so. I mean, I'm doing so. That's my personal preference. But you can quote anything I say and pass it off. It's the truth. I'm not worried about it. It's the truth. Okay, so I'm out of time. We're going to... Maybe tomorrow I'll continue the recap of the second woe, and we're going to move on to the third woe. Keep in mind that all this stuff only happens in a 3.5 year period. I mean, I am extrapolating big time, taking the little picture, making it a big picture. Don't let it overly weigh you down. All these events are going to take place within 3.5 years. It's going to be tough, but it's going to be short. In his wrath, God always remembers mercy.